Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. It's going to be a big, expensive year for Beatles fans. There's a lot of stuff coming that we know about, and there's a lot of stuff hopefully coming that I'm going to speculate about. So I just wanted to talk through some of those things about what we might get during the year of 2020 for Beatles fans. So, first of all, we seem to have a little bit of a gap early on in this year where there might not be too much planned. So I'm wondering, and this is me speculating, whether we might be getting some Paul McCartney vinyl and CD reissues again, like we had, for example, last year when he issued a few live albums like Chobba BCCP and the Amoeba gig, which was a great surprise. So I wonder whether around about March time could be a good time for Paul to get something like that out. I don't think it's going to be any of the albums that we might get an archive collection for. So don't expect London Town, Back to the Egg, Flaming Pie, Press to Play or anything like that. But maybe some of those deeper cuts from his catalogue might be due for a release. But I think March is a good bet for something to happen. So we'll see there. But that's just my speculation. Now, like it's been over the past 2 or 3 years, this year is going to be completely driven, I think, by 50th anniversary releases again. And it's an interesting one this year because we now enter the proper solo careers of each of the Beatles. If you don't include sort of John's avant-garde albums and the couple of albums that George made before All Things Must Pass. They're hitting the 50th anniversaries this year, and what might we get from those? Well, one interesting fact, slightly interesting fact from a marketing point of view, is that the dates that albums were released in 1970, their anniversaries this year are on Fridays, and of course Friday now is the worldwide standard release day. So whereas in the past couple of years releases have been tied to sort of anniversaries a day or two out, this year they can release them on the actual 50th anniversary. So it might be something that the marketers might make a little bit of a meal of. It's not going to make a massive difference to us, but it might just mean that it gives them an extra little marketing opportunity. We shall see. The first one of those coming up is the 27th of March, which will be the 50th anniversary of Ringo's Sentimental Journey album, his album of covers, old standards. Now, Ringo's sort of famously not been too bothered about getting big deluxe packages out there of his old albums. It doesn't seem to interest him. I'm sure he loves the money that he gets from the Beatles ones. But now that we're hitting those 50th anniversaries and there's decisions to be made about whether to get your unreleased stuff out there, because you've got to do that this year for anything released in 1970 if you want to protect the copyright on it. So it'd be interesting to see whether Ringo changes his approach this year. So we may well, if we are going to get something for Sentimental Journey, potentially back end of March, although it could in theory be any time between now and the end of the year, we'd have to hear something about that soon if it's going to be March. So let's see what happens with that one. The next interesting one is April. April the 17th is the 50th anniversary of McCartney, the first Paul McCartney solo album. And I'm really intrigued to see what happens with this because although we've had the archive collection, there it is up there, that was one of the really early ones about 9 years ago now, which was really sort of skimpy on the extras compared to the recent archive collections that we've been getting. So there's very little in terms of sort of outtakes, studio demos, whatever, that from that album. And again, if Paul wants to protect the copyright on that stuff that's unreleased, it's got to come out this year. So I don't think he's just going to release a new version of McCartney because that would seem that's going to annoy a lot of fans who've shelled out big money for these archive collections. But I wonder whether is the time right now for some sort of rarities collection to come out. It's been rumoured for a long time that might we get an archive collection that is a rarities package that sort of spans an era rather than being specific to a certain album. And I think this year's the year where we'll find out whether that is a plan or not, because now's the time to start doing it if you want to start protecting a lot of that stuff that we didn't get on the McCartney Archive Collection. So let's see what happens with that. It's difficult to know a time when this could come out because, as we're going to see, there's an awful lot of other stuff scheduled. But will they make room for something like that? Well, we'll find out. The next big one is May. May the 8th this year is the 50th anniversary of the release of the Beatles' Let It Be album. So, and that's a Friday as well. So, like I was saying before, they can do this on the exact day. So, I'm pretty sure, although we've not heard anything official or even unofficial yet, I'm pretty sure that we're going to get something on that date. Hopefully, like the Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper White Album packages that we've had over the last few years. Let It Be, May the 8th. If it's coming, that's when it's going to be. So maybe we're going to hear something about that round about March time if that's going to happen. So that will be really, really exciting to see what happens there, because there could be some monstrous package that comes out for Let It Be, hopefully. In terms of the film, the new Peter Jackson film, that seems to be scheduled for October from what I've heard, as well as an accompanying book. And the book's going to be called Get Back, so it'll be interesting to see whether the film is going to be called that. But yeah, Amazon are taking pre-orders already for a book that's coming out in October, accompanying the film. So that's with Let It Be. That's what seems to be happening now. Whether in May we'll get the original film released, because they did promise us last year that the original film would be re-released as well, or whether that's just going to be in theatres, in cinemas, I don't know, but we'll see. So will that be May or October? Well, we'll find out soon. The next big date is in July, probably the 24th, but it seems to be fairly official now. Flaming Pie is going to be the next Paul McCartney Archive Collection, so I'm really looking forward to that. I hope it's a great tribute to Linda, because of course that was the last album that she was around for. Was she taking a lot of photographs of Paul in the studio during those sessions and just generally in life at that time? Hopefully, and if she was, maybe we'll get some sort of dedicated book in the package for that. But this has the potential to be a fantastic package. And what's been rumoured is 5 CDs and 2 DVDs. Now, what they're going to fit into that? Well, if you've got some ideas, let me know. That'd be really interesting. But I'm sure it'll be a disc for the album, remastered. It'll be there'll be B-sides, maybe some of the Ubu Jubu stuff. Will the Ubu Jubu spill over onto a third disc? Because the whole thing was about 17 hours, so there's a lot they could release, or they might not go down that particular avenue. Is there a lot of unreleased stuff from that era that we just didn't know about? Well, we don't know. We'll find out. But 5 CDs and 2 DVDs, interesting. There's a lot to fit on there. But it's also rumoured that is not the biggest configuration that we're going to get. Something even bigger. Now, I don't know what that's going to be. Could it be something like there was a special Tug of War that came out. It came in a big fancy box, and I think it just sort of had extra photographs or something with it. There was certainly no extra music, and I think it was limited to about 1,000 copies. So I wonder whether we're going to get something like that for Flaming Pie. We shall see. But the 5 CD, 2 DVDs is rumoured to be not the biggest version that's coming out, so that's going to be very, very interesting. September 25th is the 50th anniversary of Ringo's Bocuse of Blues. So again, I mean, I've already talked about Ringo's sort of attitude to these sets and whether it'll change. Again, we'll find out. Is there going to be something to commemorate the 50th anniversary of that and the sessions that went into it? We will see potentially around about September time. I mentioned October for the new Peter Jackson film and the accompanying book. November, that's an interesting one. So November the 27th. It will be the 50th anniversary of the release of George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. So, of course, we've had very little from George's estate since his passing, and I really hope that's going to change this year. George, of course, must have left instructions to Olivia and Danny about what he did want releasing and what he didn't want releasing, but really I hope that there's something that is, some instructions that is left about All Things Must Pass. We know that he was not averse to a remix, because he talked himself about remixing the album. So I hope they're going to do that. It would be really interesting to see what a de-spectrized version looks like without Phil Spector's massive wall of sound. And we'd finally find out, was Phil Spector right to do that? Or is there an even better album lurking behind that wall of sound? I really hope we find out in November, but All Things Must Pass is prime for a beautiful deluxe package, and it's this year or never, quite potentially. So we'll see what happens there. And then in December, it's the 50th anniversary of John's Plastic Ono Band album. So big question there is, again, will we get some sort of a deluxe package, a bit like we did with Imagine about 15, 16 months ago? Will we get something that focuses on that? Will Yoko want to actually celebrate the 40th anniversary of Double Fantasy? Because, of course, that was an album that was much more Yoko-centric, and she might want to commemorate those sessions, potentially. So I think if there's going to be something from John, probably either Plastic Ono Band or Double Fantasy towards the back end of the year, we shall see there. But the other big thing that's rumoured for December, it's not been publicised as much, but it is out there, saying that we might finally be getting London Town and Back to the Egg archive collections. That would be really interesting. I've gone on record before as saying, as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy for those to be left till the end, because they're going to come. He's not going to miss those 2 albums out, but I worry that once those 2 albums are out, is that the end of the archive collection? So for me, just give me everything else. Give me Flaming Pie, Press to Play, Broad Street, and all sorts of other things. Give me a Fireman package that's got all of the Fireman albums together and sessions. And then have London Town and Back to the Egg at the end. And I know that's not everybody's opinion. Some people will completely disagree with me on that, but fair enough. But it does look like we're finally getting London Town and Back to the Egg, potentially in December. I'd heard that there was potentially some sort of a court case going on that might have been the reason for the delay on those 2 albums. And the logical thinking is that, is it something to do with the Rockestra, the live version from the concert for Kampuchea, because of all those people who were involved in that, all those other stars? Is there somebody who's objecting to its release, maybe? Because that's bound to be a part of it, because what they're likely to do is something similar to what they did with the Red Rose Speedway and Wildlife sets, where there was, if you bought them together, you got the Wings Over Europe with it. I'm sure they're going to do something similar with that package, where you're going to get some sort of 1979 concert, and there may have been a legal reason that's been holding it up. But if that's been sorted and it's coming out in December, then I'm sure that could be an amazing and very expensive package. This is looking like a very expensive year, but it's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. So what are you looking forward to this year, Beatles-wise? What do you think we'll get, and what do you hope we'll get? Because they might be 2 different things. Please let me know in the comments. I'd love to have a chat with you as always. But there's my thoughts on what might be happening in 2020. Some of it will come true, some of it might not, but hey, it's fun to have a think about it. Thank you very much for joining me. As you can tell, my New Year's resolution for 2020 is not to wear my rubbish, awful jumpers all the time in my videos. I thought I'd smart myself up with the first one. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you again soon. If you want to see some more videos talking about this stuff, then please subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.